Bonsoir tout le monde.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Welcome to our meeting of May 6th. We can welcome our remote counselor, he's back from his trip. He's in person this evening. We were all happy to see him. As other meeting, I would like to mention that we're gathering on the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. So, Mr. Clerk, we do have quorum. Everybody is here. In terms of conflict of interest declaration, any council members who would like to declare a conflict of interest on any items of the agenda, seeing none, adoption of the agenda. So you have in front of you the agenda. I would only need a motion moved by Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin, seconded by Councillor Joël Desbré. Questions? If not, all in favor saying aye. Against nay. Motion carried. Thank you. 5.1, approval of the minutes of the meeting held on April 15, 2024, 2 weeks ago. You probably had a chance to review them, and anyone who would like to make a motion to move by Councillor Germaine Galland, seconded by Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin. All in favor saying aye. Against nay. Motion carried. We have no public presentation. In terms of reading of correspondence, we have 2 letters from that we had received. These were letters from Mr. Clerk, if you want to, or our CEO. These letters were received a while back, and it's always possible, the main the highlights of the letter. So it was the municipal association that sent similar letters, remover a subject to items that were already done, so we could adapt the letter. So it's good. It's just to inform you in terms of challenges for the municipalities, in terms of taxation, evaluation, and all of this file. So it's just to inform you. So we'll be able to draft something that would summarize the essential points. So if you have any questions, that would be the time. In terms of report, no financial report for this evening, but the protection services. So we have the quarterly report from the RCMP, and they have the statistics for the Shediac detachment. And that's serves more than the municipality. It goes above and beyond. So we see some numbers are lower, some are higher, but it's someone our RCMP representative. They're always working on those. So it's more for information purposes. Do you have any questions? In terms of fire department, 8.2.2, their usual report, so that is for April. So you can see the differences accumulated compared to last year. It's there for your information, unless you would have any question. Building permits, well, it's not for today. 9, the CAO report. So, Mr. CAO. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since the last meeting, as you were I can make there's nobody not doing anything at the administration. We're pretty much busy. So I just wanted to report on a few information points. In some of them, it might be follow-up or new information. And I think it was mentioned there were a couple of programs for the Francophone Association of the New Brunswick where we could get some financial help with some expenses, especially like for official languages and translation. So there are some amounts like the administration were able to get some grant, $4,000 for translation. So it's for part of the year, for a part of 2023. We were still in 2023 for this program. There's $4,000 like that will be transferred soon. It's a little bit under 4,000. I'm just rounding it up. And there's also like it's another program, like there's a $20,000 that we were able to secure, like to help with our signage policy, the language policy of the municipality. So these are revenues were not forecasted, but of course it will help us with our operational budget. And also for your information, we were able to sign a contract for the Sunday markets. It's a very popular activity in town, and everybody is looking forward for them to resume in June. So the operators from last year, like they were not interested to continue. So we went to called tender. So we got two quotes, and finally, like the decision was taken by the selection committee to grant a contract to Romain Ramad. Some of you may have met him. I think he was working for Adorable Chocolat. I don't know if he's still there, but and also, like, of course, like he was interested to take the responsibility for the Sunday market. So with according to the conditions of the call for tender, like it was a 3-year contract. So we wish him like the best of luck. Things should go as expected, and the market will resume in June as expected. And I know Mr. Ramad had a lot of plans, like to attract more vendors and more also merchants to the market. So we hope everything goes as planned. Also, to answer a question, I think it was a question from Councillor O'Brien. So for building permits, to know like if we were able like to give more detail of what we were presenting in our reports. So the Direction of Economic Development, they check also with Plan 360, and we were told like because of the Act for the right to information and the privacy protection. So the information we're sharing, that's the information we can share. We cannot get into more details with the building permits requests than what's part of the reports we're already given on a monthly basis. At least this was confirmed in writing following like a request made to 360, a reminder like the next meeting, like Tuesday, May 21st. It will be on a Tuesday because Monday is a holiday. So the auditors will come to present the financial statements for 2023. And the last item, for those who had confirmed like participation to the LOAs, it's this week. And as you know, like the town of Shediac is the hostess town, like so it's also like a competition for Francophone artists from the Atlantic provinces, and it will be held in Shediac from May 8 to 11. So there are all kind of activities throughout the municipality, and I know some of you like confirm you're present to some attendance to those activities. So we're wishing the best of luck to the LOAs that will be here this week. So that's it for my report, unless you have any question or specific question from council members. So one question on any question? Mr. Cormier, on something you mentioned, yes. Item 13, no, I will talk about. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the Sunday market, what is the cost for the municipality? So there is money in the budget for the market. Out of memory, I don't know if you have the exact number, Julie. I think it was 30,000. So we made an agreement with the Romain. With the Romain, yeah. So we will do for some equipment, and since they want more space to eat, but the cost did not increase the forecasted amount. So there was some money with the object, and it's within the budget envelope. So it means it would be lower than last year. Not necessarily. So each of the contracts we have with the market, there's always some different agreements. So we have a budget allocated. So if ever we have more, we can still invest to help with the market. So we have this to this budget. Right now, the forecast says we would be using less than last year, because last year, because we gave an additional 40,000 that was not budgeted. We did not. It was to support the market organizers for last year. So once we get the exact numbers, can we have them? So Carol, do you have them? So the budget we have presented for the Sunday market, 35,000. Thank you. So number 10, well, there's no recommendation from the Southeast Regional Service Commission or Plan 360, for unfinished business, 11 point what, a residential incentive, and for affordable housing. So as you can see, we presented a draft of this, and we got your comments, and it's to add or modify the ongoing draft. So it's not for adoption. It's just to update you and to get more of your comments. Jonathan, who had spoke on this one. First, if you allow me, Mr. Mayor, I cannot repeat what you said, but those are three drafts we're presenting this evening. We will go through the changes. Jonathan prepare all of them, and we're open for comment. So we're not looking to adopt the policy this evening, because it's not a policy that's finished yet. We're going into negotiation, and we have discussion with the council to see if they're comfortable with it. So we're leaving the floor to you, and Jonathan will present the three policies we worked on, and we just wanted to take the time to see the biggest changes in the residential incentives. So what we discussed the last time. So this is the one is for commercial. So most of the changes you'll see also in the three policies, and or the incentive and the development has to be within the boundaries of the former town of Shediac, and they have to have access to the water and sewer connection, and the incentive we increase the amount we would discuss internally after the presentation, and we thought would be to increase for the building permit. And after reviewing our policy, we said our last presentation, we said we would not go with the use the property assessment, but we changed back to the building permits for administration purposes, because it was complicated. I think and confusing people, because if the amount can change the value of the property assessment. So we wanted for it to be clear for the developers and citizens, so they understand a fixed amount of the building permit. And we are confident with this it should go well for those applications, and also we were able to better budget in the future years. So this summarized so the changes when it comes to the values and we also added the staff of the municipality could assess the requests for the funds if the policy was followed. So we would not come back to the council every time like we have to pay amounts of money. If they follow the policy, well, that's the amount they would get. And also like the three policies, the insurance related projects are not eligible for commercial incentives, and we thought it would be good to include it like in the incentives as we had presented. This is the residential incentive. So in green, those are changes, and we just cross out like what was removed or changed. And in orange is more for administration, for us, Sylvain, and for our notes. So the residential policy is really like to increase like the density and encourage higher densities in strategic areas. So knowing like the municipal plan will be reviewed. Questions, Councillor Cormier. So thank you. So is it commercial policy 11.11? So it's the first one. I already spoke on that one, and so the staff of the municipality will assess like the request and if the policy is followed. So in principle, I have no problems because it's clear. If the policy is clear, that's what it is. I have no problem with this. So where I do not want to give the power like to employees is if the policy is not clear. If there's nothing in the policy says, if it's ambiguous and that we have to bring it to the council. I know our director of the economic development assured me that it was the goal. We will be asked to accept a policy. Once it's adopted, it's adopted. Like we cannot go back, and that's what concerns me. So I would ask maybe to do some wordsmithing in that one, just to. If you allow me, I think it's a good question, the wordsmithing. We will have to work like internally with Sylvain. There might be a clause like, let's say, for arbitrations. If we're not comfortable with the file, we'll bring. And I agree with you, Councillor Cormier. We should have a wording that protects this, like some type of trigger that would have to bring it to the council. So that's why we did not want to bring a policy to adopt it this evening. We just make sure the process has started and the council members were comfortable. It's just I wouldn't want to give this responsibility to the employees and put them in a ambiguous or difficult situation. So the council decides and before. So another thing we could add maybe is within the budget, because we will present like an annual budget for those incentives, and just to make sure like nothing above those. It follows the budget. Councillor Peterborough. I would like to get some information on the insurance. So maybe Danny can answer this question. So if you have an apartment building, usually like the insurance will pay like to rebuild the building. So does it ensure like even if we do not have any incentive, like the building will be rebuilt and will collect like taxes? So it's all case by case, like depending of the situation. So Joel is looking at me, so you can correct me too. Everything is case by case, but when a building is is on fire and is burned down, and either it's accidental or the insurance covers to rebuild even the cost of the building permit. So if they go to commission, that fee is covered. All of this is covered by the insurance. But if we turn around and we give them an incentive on top of this, we already had the tax base created with this document. So the insurance will cover it for replacement. It's a good question because there might be a problem with the insurance then they can rebuild and have a cash out. But this way, yes, they can rebuild.
Councillor McElroy.
Councillor Michael Royd.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. There was a reference made to we need to have further negotiations as we develop the policy, and I'm just wondering if you could clarify who it is that you're negotiating with.
Well, from our perspective, maybe negotiating is not the proper word to use. It's more we're revising the current policy and bringing in recommendations among the conversations we're having with council here today and with our Committee of Economic Development. We had one meeting and we brought you a presentation the other day. So that's the process that was in place, Councillor McElroy.
Have developers had an opportunity to express their opinions or views on proposed recommended changes?
Not necessarily. We haven't reached out to developers directly on this issue here, but this is a public meeting and it's been broadcasted since April. So,
yeah, okay. And just one other thing, the reference to the fact that these initiatives will not apply outside of the former town of Shediac boundaries. I take it that that's clearly because bylaw 58 doesn't apply outside. So I just wanted to clarify that for anybody who might be listening and wondering how come now that we're part of Shediac, this program doesn't apply to us. But
yeah, no, and
there are no bylaws yet that apply in the town of Shediac that are also applicable in the newly amalgamated areas. That's something that we need to work on.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Conseiller Paul Boudreau.
Oui, Monsieur le Maire,
just maybe one question. And are you thinking, or are you exploring some incentive for institutions with major projects like the Villa Providence and the high school coming up? Is it part of the strategy? With the public funds coming in, depending some schools, so it's not included an incentive. So the schools and nursing homes, hospitals, and jails, and all the institutions that are government institution, well, it's taking money from one pocket and then transfer it to the other one. We did not see it as an incentive. However, the municipality is asking the council to work with any organization to bring the services they need. Cash up front, well, it's not a tool used by many municipalities other than building roads. So those infrastructure. So the point was in the text, Jonathan highlighted as institutional buildings, it will be excluded for such as churches, schools, medical clinics, and government buildings.
Councillor Lloyd.
Councillor Lloyd.
Danny, Shediac Industrial Park. This would be an industrial application in many cases. Is this applicable?
At the current, we're going back to the outside boundaries of the old town. It would not be applicable because we do not have the economic development policy in place or bylaw in place that represents those areas, and it refers back to the question Harry had asked us, Councillor McElroy, which we don't have in place yet. So as of today, if the question were, is there any incentives for developing in the Shediac Industrial Park? Town of Shediac has no tools right now, and it's not presented to you here today. It doesn't mean that it won't be in the future, but it's not here today.
Thank you.
Welcome. Monsieur Jonathan, continuer avec.
You can go on with the residential incentive policy.
Round de questions.
Then I will have another round of questions. I should have taken a little break. Like, yeah, I was trying to go through to leave earlier, but so the residential policies, as we mentioned, like most of the changes is for a single family dwelling, like what's R1 and R2, like subdivisions. The same changes that were proposed, like in the commercial incentive, it's to, as Councillor Michael Roy said, so it just shows like the changes. So the biggest change here would be for us that was brought, it would be a minimum of 8 units for multi-family dwellings, and it would still be something that would be classed as R3. Instead of the 3 millions here, it's a mistake on my behalf. We wanted to increase it to 5 millions. So it's still a bit more competitive because the prices increase. So by looking at the numbers, reviewing the numbers, we noticed like it should be 5 million instead of 3 million. So so it would be that 1.25% of anything like under 5 millions. And also, like we added also the insurance fees on eligible development, and the part that we did not do in our presentation, we thought it would be good, like to get some feedbacks from people. The projects like with the rezoning, like something that would be the R1 to went from R1 to R2, and then they wanted to do something like a high density development. They would be reclassified as R3, so they would not be eligible for those multi-residential incentive. So we do not want necessarily to encourage like a development in those zones. We really want to focus on something that's already like in good zone, and knowing that the municipal plans will be updated, so those zones will be established. So we want to stay within those regulations. So we're encouraging high density, like to in the adequate appropriate zones. And the last little proposed change is that the municipality would the staff of the administration will authorize also like the amount to be paid if the policy is followed. A few questions. So I see like the incentive is would be more like that would be kind of, you could see like the incentive would be like the R3 zone already established. So it would direct the development like to the one. And it makes sense. So in terms of to increase like 3 to 5 million, a minimum of 8 million. So what is the strategy? Like instead of 8, did we have like a lower threshold, or? So before, like it was like R1, R2, like duplex. So to put like a minimum of 8 units, like it would be more like a clarification. So we did not want to confuse anyone. So we wanted to put a minimum units of what would be presented and not the R2. Mr. CEO, just before we go to questions, could you maybe just mention like the different categories were eliminated, because there was a section like just to make sure like we are eliminated like the duplex row houses and like single family dwelling, mobile homes. That's pretty much it. Seems to be focused more like under R3, like higher density. Councillor Patricia Bourg-Chevary. It was more a comment than a question. So I read the general policy. So that's the one. So the insurance related projects, so I thought that there was not a big definition of insurance project, but when I read for the other one,
Translation is not the same, so maybe put related projects, insurance-related projects. Yes, projects related to insurance rather than just put in insurance projects as in that first section. I find, just to be a bit clearer, insurance-related, no problem. And in the incentive for affordable housing, no, we're not there yet. He hasn't presented it yet. Oh, it's the same thing. It's in French, but it's not. It's on the English side. It's just a comment. Councillor Roland Cormier. Thank you, Your Worship. Jonathan, could you explain? I know that we haven't approved it. We're discussing it, but at some point we'll approve it. And on the day it's approved, there's already building permits that have already been issued. Can you explain the mechanism of how that will work? Danny, is there something you could add to this? But this is discussions that we'd like to have. We'd like the direction of the council. There's building permits already, so the policy could say it would be in 2 months, and it would be in play then. So there's lots of options that we could look at, depending on the will of the council. That would be logical, I think. Mr. Pellerin, do you want to add something? That is certainly a good option that we was brought forward. We thought a bit about it, and then we don't have the answer for you, but we're going to check with the commission if they can give us the exact date where they made the application. So once it goes in the queue, if there's an exact date, and we can get that, there you can apply the policy as of the day it's in effect, and all the permits that are in the queue as of that date, even if they get the permit 6 weeks after you pass the motion, if the date was stamped the week before you pass the motion, it would be eligible. It could pick up what's in the queue. You mean the date the application was made for the permit? Oh, yes, absolutely. Can you explain this to me? We're talking about a budget. So here's an example of a scenario, and you can fill in the blanks. Let's say that you have a $500,000 budget. It's just hypothetically, eh? But 1 year, there's applications, if you do the math, for $750,000. So we're missing $250,000. I think the council is clear that the budget, we're not going to go over the budget. Is it granted on a pro rata basis, or have you thought about this, or you're not there yet? You tried? It's hard to answer that question. When we do the budget exercise, we have to try to assume what the value of those properties will be once they're done. And the way we go about this is we look at the finished properties, something that's similar, take a ratio of that to see what we might set aside in the budget. But when we establish the budget in September or October 2024, we won't be granting it until after March 2025. It's a new tax year. So the $500,000 or $7,000 assessments will come out. So let's say it's a lower assessment. If it's a higher assessment, it's hard for us to predetermine that during the budget exercise. We don't have the real figures in the province in terms of assessment. That's why we put the budgets close. If we're going to go beyond, if we're meant to go beyond, we'll come for the council. Maybe I missed. Did we not just say that we weren't go by assessment? We're going to go by building permit. So did I misunderstand this? I'll answer that In terms of the assessment, it's the residential incentive. For the commercial side, it's based on the value of building permit. It's a different policy, but the budget will be a total budget based on all of those initiatives. Yes, Mr. CAO. But I would add this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Danny. There's an incentive is never paid in the same year as the application. So we always have a chance to adjust the budgets. If there's a big year or the year is a little less, we adjust the budget for the following year because the incentive is never paid in the year that the application is made. That means that there's no difference what you set aside the budget. If the assessments or the building permits go beyond the budget, we will just adjust it. That's not what I'd understood last meeting when Councillor McElroy asked that question. Maybe I misunderstood. And that's why I'm asking for clarifications. Well, if you'll allow me to add something, Victor is right in his answer. However, if the assessment increases, our portion of the municipality has increased as well. Your question is really to determine the budget and in precise terms. It's not easy if you don't have the figures. However, we see now that project takes 18 months and two years before we get the incentive. But they wait for the whole assessment for the full value. They can only come for us one time. So lots of projects take 18 months or 2 years, and we collect the taxes, and then we reimburse them. We don't reimburse the incentive yet. Sometimes we receive 2 years of property tax before we reimburse the incentive. I just want to give you that as information. But it's a good question. It's not a question that we can answer precisely. Great, thank you. Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin, thank you, Your Worship. So this incentive, so the residentials, they won't have it at all? For R2, no. R1 and R2, no, not at all. I find it's unfortunate. We want to invite families to come, and all we're going to do is help the more industrial type of accommodation. There's a nationally single family dwellings nationally. The federal government is encouraging 4-unit dwellings. This is more affordable for a young family. So the tradition of a single family home in terms of construction price, so we're seeing more semi-detached, that type of home. Or condos. For our single-family home dwelling, it was a grand total of $2,500, half for the lot and half to create the house. $2,500 on a $120,000, $150,000 house. Yeah, it's a higher percentage on a regular house. That same house now is about $350,000. It's not $2,500 that's an incentive to build it. It's really lost its effect. It's lost its impact. Mr. CAO, I'd like to also add the third policy that we'll be presenting about affordable housing comes to help people, more individuals. It's to make more of the units in Shediac affordable housing, affordable rent. This will help the common people because it will be in line with what Canada Mortgage and Housing is asking for. So that's an additional great thing for the citizens as well.
Councillor Harry McElroy.
Councillor Harry McElroy.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm concerned that as we debate the changes in the program, builders anybody who's contemplating a subdivision, for example, or building single-family dwellings or semi-detached dwellings, if I were in that position, I'd apply today for the permit. Permit's good for a year. If the program changes, I still qualify for what exists today. So we're pretty much giving a heads up to builders if you want to take advantage of what we have today, apply today. What we should be considering, I think, so that we're not taken advantage of, is suspending the current program or the current initiative program, and then make the new one retroactive to the date that this one was suspended. So if it's the will of staff and council to eliminate subdivisions and mobile homes and single-family dwellings and semi-detached and so on, don't drag on for months, because anybody who's knowledgeable is going to be grabbing up those permits, knowing that they can build next year and benefit from the old program. So it's not unfair. It's just if we've come to that point where we've concluded that those types of construction shouldn't be eligible, and that's where we're headed, then it's not unlike when you're doing a municipal development plan and the council accepts certain preliminary positions on where the zones are going to go, you freeze development because developers will go and grab and take advantage of whatever they can while things are in flux. So you have to have a stop date and a start date, but your start date can be retroactive to your former start date, or stop date, if that makes sense. It might not be a whole lot in terms of, it might not be a stampede of people coming in to get permits, but it's not good business practice to be vulnerable like that. Say, this is what we're looking at doing. So, hustle in there and get your permit now if you want to take advantage of the grants that are not going to be available 2 months from now or whatever. And I don't think it would discourage anything. The fairness can be obtained by the retroactivity of the new policy. In my view, just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Bennett?
Good points that Harry has brought forward, taking those into consideration too. Number one, our intentions would be to bring forward hopefully a policy that we could bring a motion May 22nd. So timing is 2 weeks. Number one. Number two is we don't have any other subdivisions going on except the two that we have currently that already have subdivision agreements with the municipality. And when we get involved in subdivision agreements, it's hard to put it a cookie cutter as a template for incentives due to the fact that we've seen in the last two subdivisions, we've ended up bringing in the sewer lines and doing the storm sewers. And, so for my opinion is that any new subdivisions that are going to become down the pipeline will have to be looked at as an entity by itself, depending on the location of where they are. So them to apply for the $1,250 per house is over and above, and then come back to the town for infrastructure. We thought it'd be best if they just come and we look at the infrastructure and make a business case on the whole subdivision agreement once and for all. So that is something that we took very not lightly, because we want to encourage the single family homes as Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin alluded to. It's very important for the municipality, but I think its focus on bringing in new subdivisions, I think, is going to be more important. Once the inventory is there for building lots, we'll have builders come in.
Thank you. Merci. Third time's a charm. So, la troisième politique pour le logement abordable.
Third policy on affordable housing. Yes, for affordable housing, the intention of the policy in terms of building affordable housing, as with all of our policies, we encourage the building permit, sewer line connection to town water, everything that is required. What's new here in this incentive, we make an agreement with the owner or somebody designated by the owner who has a right to the incentive. The proposed development must be approved and defined by Canadian Mortgage and Housing, or New Brunswick Department of Social Development for affordable housing for Shediac. We make reference to what is assigned in the values. Let's say there was a property assessment of $6 million. The first year, you would be eligible for 1306 incentive program, and the 5 years following year that they would be eligible to 1.1%. This is for nonprofit organizations, as we mentioned it during our last presentation. And now we're talking about private developers. Once again, the first year, they would be eligible for $90,000. Let's say for a $6 million estimate, or the property assessment value of $6 million. And then year 2 to 6, they would receive 1% of what would be considered affordable. So this is 40% of the units would be designated as affordable, which is according to CMHC standards or SD standards. They would have to show proof of the rent roll in terms of affordable housing, and then we'd enter an agreement with them to be able to pay back the amounts for which they would be eligible. And the Affordable Housing Committee will evaluate the application to authorize the administration to disperse the funds if the policy is followed. Except for that, we added some exclusions in this policy. So, secondary suites, including laneway dwelling unit or alternative secondary accessory dwelling unit, what people call granny suites. Any project does not conform to the Affordable Housing Funding Program of CMHC or social development would not be eligible. And also projects from a private developer that are fully funded at 100% by government programs would not be eligible. Hostels and rooming houses would not be eligible. Transitional housing of any type would not be admissible, would not be eligible. As well, insurance-related projects would not be eligible for this incentive in terms of affordable housing. I'd just like to highlight that social development, it's now called Habitation New Brunswick. They are separate from the department. It's Housing New Brunswick. I just had a presentation from their president last May, at any rate. So just a small note for you. Are there questions, Councillor Paul Boudreau? Thank you, Jonathan. It's very good. These incentives for affordable housing are good. What is the definition of affordable? Is it $800 per rent for rent, $1,200 for rent? What's your definition? I know that you're based on the provincial criteria, but we take money from taxpayers to help developers and our citizens. So, what's the guideline here? Well, I'll answer, and Danny can add some if you'd like. This is calculation. It's based on what CMHC or social development would see as affordable. They define what is affordable in terms of the regions. It's based on what they would define in terms of affordability for Shediac and the region of Shediac. So how do we answer a citizen if they ask it? Yes, great. You started to invest in affordable housing. What will be the rent if we give a grant to a new building? Moncton put out said $1,200 is affordable. Well, for some it might be affordable. Is there a specific number? We're investing taxpayer money here. Jonathan explained it well. He just give you numbers. That exact number will vary according to CMHC. They will do analyses on household income. They'll look at the territory where we find ourselves, how much money is much amount of money coming in per household, and they'll take the average that's affordable. Anything below that, some are above. Affordable, last time we checked, if I'm not mistaken, it's been $1,000 and $1,100 in the region, but that will fluctuate. Could go up to 1,200, can go down. CMHC determines that. And in so determining that, they offer rebates to the developer if they want to develop it, to give them better interest rates, more time on the amortization, on their loan, to make sure to maintain a rate that is affordable, that is predetermined by the studies that they make, so that we can grant it. We need the rent roll for each building. When they ask for the incentive, they need to prove that they've followed the rent roll from the CMHC. That's the only way that we can determine if they're if they qualify or not. We're not going to see who can afford what. That's really great. Thank you for your answer, Danny. Is there a time limit whereby they need to offer affordable housing? 5 years, let's say. The rent's going up from $1,500 to $1,800. Is there something that guarantees that long-term investment? You've worked with CMHC. What happens is when they'll go into the program with CMHC, there will be financing and amortization. It's not the same as a regular bank. If it comes out of the program, they lose it. We will not be granting them that money anymore. The moment we don't have the rent roll that guarantees that the housing is at that level, we do not give the incentive. In the policy for the next 12 years, year one, it's policy 1306, the general policy for multi-unit residential to create densification. Year 2 to 6, we grant we give money for per unit. It could be 30% of the building, could be 100%, 40%. We don't know. Every project will vary based on CMHC. I think it's a pretty solid scheme. But we may have clients, and Your Worship has worked in that type of program before. Some people do try to leave those programs. People are asking for affordable housing. People in the street tell us this. Is there a taste among developers to move forward with this file? Are you having meetings with the developers? If we have this incentive, we could build X number of units. Well, right now, one is right. It's currently happening. Will it be adopted? I don't know. But we're already in discussion with one developer who's working with CMHC and would like to qualify. There's 2 others that we're in talks with. Yeah, it's interesting. They do see that the cost of living has gone up, and it's a market that will become more interesting for developers to develop. Mr. CAO. So for the next meeting, what we could try to do, Dan and Jonathan, I understand the question. We want for our policy to be connected to CMHC and what it offers as a program. And could we get some clarification from them? In terms of the rent rolls, do they revise these every 3 months, every 6 months, every year? At least have some clarification how they set the rent roll and how often they review it. It might help us to understand the process. I'll have to look at my notes, but rent is supposed to be 30 or 40% of what you earn per year, but they revise the rent roll annually. And then they take figures from Statistics Canada, and then they adjust them. We're part of a region that integrates Moncton in the stats. We're a community of 10,000 citizens. So this year or in the next we should be it should be directed towards a rent roll that's more specific to Shediac.
Merci.
Thank you.
C'est nouveau, ça, c'est-
We know it's new.
Tout pour bien le saisir.
It's we're just trying to understand it
Merci bien pour-
and what the impacts will be. Thank you very much for the presentation and the questions.
On va m'emmener ça dans 2 semaines pour-
And probably look back at this in 2 weeks, so to adopt it.
Donc, numéro
To
12,
pass it.
les affaires nouvelles, il y avait-
Number 12, under new items, nothing set aside there. Request for information by members of council. If you have any questions, this is the time for it.
Conseiller Emile O'Brien.
Councillor Emile O'Brien, thank you, Your Worship. I have questions related to the strategic municipal plan. I have a few questions on land for public use within new developments at Domaine Beau Séjour. In the interest of having specific answers, I've shared my answers in advance with the CAO and the clerk so that they'd be able to better answer in detail my question during our public meeting tonight. So I'll let Victor answer the question if he has an answer. You shared it with them in advance. Yes, thank you. Mr. Councillor, the question here is, are there lots reserved for green spaces in Domaine Beau Séjour? Well, I would say that it's in Domaine Beau Séjour and Domaine des Faisans. Both the subdivisions are one right next to the other, and when both of those subdivisions were approved many years ago, both had arranged their green spaces so that they would join in the middle between both subdivisions. So I'll ask the clerk, maybe the second page? Yes. So if you can imagine, in the middle of the page, there's a line and that divides both subdivisions. In the north, it's Domaine Beau Séjour. South is Domaine des Faisans. But when those subdivisions were developed, they had set aside land for green spaces. That's a conceptual drawing that was prepared in 2022. It's been in the books for at least 3 years in terms of planning. So there is a green space reserved. This is for a playground and a trail that would connect Jocelyn Street with Brobridge Street. This is something that was set aside at the time. For sure, those two subdivisions are still being built. They're still being developed. We can't go build a playground in the middle of a construction zone. Once both subdivisions are complete, I would foresee as early as 2025, we can start to set aside some budget and plan for some investment to develop the park in both of those subdivisions. It was to reassure the population that yes, we've set aside green spaces. The lots have been reserved, and there's even some concept drawings that were done in 2022 under the former recreation director and the former CAO. So it's been a while that this has been planned for, and those are some examples of what a park could look like, with different trails or to connect with the existing trail network in the municipality. So I haven't talked about your individual points, but I think generally speaking, it answers your question. There's nothing planned for in 2024. However, that was one of your questions. In 2024, both of those subdivisions are still being built. So there's lots of heavy equipment, heavy machines. We are being told that by the end of this year, both loops should be complete. Both subdivisions should be complete. So potentially, as we foresee our 2025 budget, we might be able to incorporate some elements of that future playground. It is certainly something that is foreseen for both of those subdivisions, not just Beau Séjour, also domaine des Faisans, they're one next to the other, and the playground would be between both subdivisions. Thank you, Mr. CAO. Great.
So these are good news
this
for
is good
later.
news for later.
Councillor Janice communicates. So I just want like to make a small pitch for the LOL for Saturday night. So 2 years ago, Councillor Patricia Bourtrevin and myself, we attended in Petit Rocher. It's really a great evening. If you did not get your tickets, I don't know if it's sold out, but there's transformation like during the meeting. It's really something as if you were like you were a nomination like to the big awards. Like they have a band. It's great just to see them. And it's really interesting for those who never attended. I encourage you to get your tickets for Saturday night because I think it's worthwhile. Even I would encourage all the members and the public take advantage. Like it's a great opportunity, like to welcome them. We were supposed to welcome them like 2 years ago, so the pandemic like kind of make everything go backwards. Like it's a great opportunity for our opportunity, like to get them. It's to celebrate our francophone artist. Councillor Jean-Claude Bertin, I just would like to thank the administration to send someone like to check the sidewalk just in front of the new building because some bricks were damaged and they were removed and replaced. So it was great. So thank you to take care of this. Thank you, Councillor Jean-Claude. Mr. Clerk, like just a point of information. So Wednesday morning this week, the sidewalks will be repaired. So so the street will be closed like for Wednesday of this week. A good part of the work will be done, but we will get like public messages for the population only for that day, Wednesday. And then it will be open, so that's good.
Councillor Harry McElroy.
Councillor McElroy.
I would like to request a kind of like an inventory report on the apartment vacancy rate in Shediac, something that would document the number of apartment dwellings, buildings within the town and the current levels of occupancy within them. And a second report, I'd like a taxation assessment report with regard to Ward 2 that would show the total assessment and total property taxes generated in Ward 2 in 2023 and 2024. And hopefully it'll break down the taxes paid to the town of Shediac and the taxes paid out of Ward 2 to the province of Nova Scotia or New Brunswick. Thank you. Hopefully we're paying enough. Hopefully we're not.
Hopefully you're not paying for taxes in Nova Scotia. Yeah. Anyway, sure. Mr. DG?
Well, if I may, an inventory of vacant apartment buildings is not, or apartment units is not something we have. It's not data that we collect. We could check. I don't know if Plan 360 may have that, or if it's like I don't. They would have that for apartment buildings. All right, we'll look into it. I know we don't have that information. It's not data that we have.
Yeah.
The second report is certainly something we can prepare. We have that data, but vacant apartments in Shediac is not something that we have, but we can attempt to find it.
Okay, I appreciate that. I guess it just makes sense if we're in the business of incentivizing people to build apartment buildings, we should have some idea about what the current status is of the number of units we have, and are they fully occupied, or are we in hard shape in terms of no vacancy rate at all, or do we have a 30% vacancy rate, or what? The market will dictate it, but I'd like to know it, and maybe it's CMHC, maybe it's planning. Okay.
I know that, and this is from my former life. It depends on how it's probably a combination of CMHC and StatsCan in terms of are they actually gathering data on that on a larger center? Yes, Montreal, Moncton census metropolitan area, which we're not a part of for anyway whatever reason. So, but we'll see what we can find. No problem. Conseil Paul Boudreau.
Oui.
Councillor Paul Boudreau, yes. I would like to congratulate Julie and her team, like for the volunteer gala. It was a great evening, and everybody appreciated. I'm asking like the quotes for the fire station, Bob. Is it coming or? And also for the fire truck. Maybe you can answer those two questions at the same time if you're working on those two files. So the fire truck, the tender just closed on May 1st. So we received like the results, but now we have to go to the step of the analysis of the result. So it's scheduled for Thursday with the analysis team. So the fire station, it's a tender. So the closing date for the tender was supposed to be May 16. But we had a request like to have an extension, so we extended it to May 30th, just today, like with amendment. So this is the status like for the fire station. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all. So that's the update. Councillor Joël Després. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a question for Bob. So the line of do we own the streets up to Wilson's or to the circle? It's just close to the intersection. Like the circle is outside, like the boundaries. The question I'm asking, I don't know if go there, but the road is really damaged just getting into Shediac. So I don't know if it's something the town could take of. No, this road belongs to the province. So the last couple of years, like we ended up including it in your asphalt patching. So I knew exactly what you were talking about. Like, so we'll redo it like the contract. So maybe in 2-3 weeks, like it should be done. Councillor Emile O'Brien. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bob, I'm just curious, like for the tender, like for the truck, how many did you get? 2. We got 2 for the fire truck. Only 2. Yeah. Well, that's good. Thank you. It's not a lot, but it's a limited the number of people building those trucks.
C'est spécial. C'est pas.
Yeah, it's specialized. It's not something you find everywhere. So number 14. So 14 point, we have a bylaw for the first 2 readings. It's more like for a situation that's been going on for a very long time from what I've heard. And I will let our CEO to explain it because I think he knows more detail. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's a case that's a little bit complex. Because it goes back to the situation goes back to 1991 and probably before that. Just to situate you, like Sylvain, maybe could you post like the map, like at the bottom of South Cove Road, where South Cove Road meets Wayne Street. If you go there, there is a pumping station that is owned by the Sewer Commission. On the old maps, like the South Cove Road goes to the coastline, like every other street in the past, it would go up to the coastline. So the public right of way that was existing for South Coast, it would go up to the water. Except like sometimes between 1974 and 1991, So the family would develop like the lots in this region of the town. These were like a Bridges family. At what time, like the line listed in black, so that little square, it was, you see like Wayne and South Cove Street adjoining it. All the rest, like what was it? Like in 1991, when the neighbors at the right, like where they purchased they also purchased this piece of land from the town of Shediac. The transfer was done in 1991. They never removed like the right of way for the public. So now the lady, like her husband passed away, and she's been trying to sell her property for a year, but she was not. Like when they did their title research, they noticed like the right of way, the public right of way, was never removed on her property. So when the land was sold at the time, maybe a process was not done, and technically like the public right of way has always been there. So the bylaw, it was for the council members who've been there for a lot. Stop up and close. Like there's other bylaw, like if you see on our website, like the stop up and close, like that we did, it's to remove like the public access on a street section that was previously a public street. So we need this bylaw to remove like the public access in order like to complete the transfer like to the lady who owned this land, because she's been paying taxes on this property for 1991, and that land belongs to her, but this process to remove public access was never completed before. So the bylaw is removing the public access, but still guarantees so the right for the sewer commission like to have this pumping station. It will also guarantee there's a right of way for the servitude like that exists up to the coast for the sewer commission, because from the pumping station up to the coast there's the servitude, and the servitude was remain in place, but the public access would be removed from the land, and the land could be transferred like to the family as it should be done in 1991. It's a little bit bizarre for a case, but it's a situation that we were presented like by a lawyer, and now we are working with our lawyers since then, trying like to fix this. That's where we're at. So there are two readings, well, first and second one, and the third one would be done at the next meeting. Essentially, like to complete this financial transaction for the land transaction. Councillor Janice Cormier, if you would like to read it. Thank you. First reading, like a bylaw number 24-69, that a bylaw relating. It's a bylaw relating to permanently close a portion of South Cove Road be authorized, and that this bylaw be for first reading by its title. I shall moved by Councillor Janice Cormier, seconded by Joël Després. Questions on the motion? Councillor Roland Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are there anything in our minutes from 1991 that would identify that we were giving this, abandoning this right away, or nothing? It could have been done any time, like between 1974 and 1971, because in 1991, in 1983, they purchased this land where their house is located, and in 1981, when they purchased the land we're talking about, it was only referring remnant land. It's only a parcel that was there, and it was transferred. If you go on Planet, like the provincial government system, it's been since 1991 that this land has been registered to them. So they've been paying taxes. This is André Degg. André Degg is a lawyer. He worked on with us on this project. It would have required a real in-depth title search to get the exact date. And according, in his opinion, like at this point, 33 years later, so the family has been paying like property taxes since then. So it was in the opinion that the municipality did not really have an interest in the land, that could simply like finalize the transaction as it should have been done in 1991. But we do not know exactly like at which date like it became. I'm questioning like the willingness of the council in 1991, like what was the value of that land and what it sold for. Like no information on this. I'm only questioning like would it be possible like they got it like at discount prices and that the condition was that the citizen could access the beach. So that's why I was asking the question, but it seems like you do not necessarily have this information. Since 1991, it's been a private property. So the only thing that's been registered was the servitude, like for the sewer commission. So that's the only thing that was registered because it was part of former street. So this public access always existed as any street, like that we're going up to the beach. So when the transfer of the land was done, they should have removed that servitude at the time, but it wasn't done. We could try like to. It's just a few times like some citizen from the town of Shediac, they're saying like we live in a town where there's a lot of water and we do not want to get a debate for water access Riverside Drive, but there are some comments from the citizens. They're saying like some streets like we do not have water access. We had access like to water when we were kids. And when they tell me that, well, you're probably right, but now we're asking to remove another access. Is it a place? Is it a place using on a regular basis? But this is an access once again, like the citizens of our municipalities, they don't have access to this one. If we go through the resolution, so no, I understand. So in this case, like the owners, like they have a garage and part of their parking it's on the land. So to have access like to water, they have to go through like between the house and the garage. Would be quite difficult. Once again, like we cannot answer to all what happened in 1991, but according to the preliminary research done by Mr. Daigle, like he came up with this recommendation, like to continue to remove the public access and be able to transfer like the land like to the adjacent owner. So this land also will have a clear title. It's unfortunate it wasn't done at the time. It was probably the willingness of the council at the time. Councillor Patricia Bookshop, it was just like a follow-up of what Councillor Cormier was saying. When the town sells a lot, there's always a motion, there's always a resolution. Did we find this resolution? So I went to look for it and it was not okay. I thought it was when 1991. No, I will not get you to go through this. If you have like the date it was sold, in 1974 when the subdivision was created, so it's referring to the road, but so we're referring to a remnant land. So in 1974, there's something that happened, but we're not able to localize them. I'm okay like it. if this part of their yard, and I don't think it's used. Not really.
No.
So on this note, so it was moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Against nay. Carried. Mr. Clerk. Bylaw dash, it's a bylaw relating to permanent close a portion of South Cove Road. I move that we accept the first reading of the bylaw number 2469 by its title, moved by Councillor Janice Cormier, seconded by Councillor Joël Després. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Against nay, motion carried. The first reading is done. Second reading, Councillor Cormier. Second reading bylaw number 24-69. That bylaw number 24-69, a bylaw relating to permanently close a portion of South Cove Road, be read a second time by its title and its entirety. I shall move by Councillor Janice Cormier, seconded by Councillor Joël Després. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Against nay. Carried. Mr. Clerk, bylaw number 24-69, a bylaw relating to permanently close a portion of South Cove Road. The town of Shediac adopts as follows, whereas 10.1p of the Local Governance Act authorized municipal council to permanently close roads, streets, and highways or portions thereof, whereas the extension of South Cove Road shown below was an integral part of the subdivision plan entitled Subdivision Plan of Arnold A. Bridges Subdivision, registered in the Westmoreland County Registry Office on October 31st, 1974, as number 9355. At the same time, Wayne Street and South Cove Road were created. And whereas it's deemed in the public interest that a portion of South Cove Road identified in Schedule B as the apparent PID 703567 be permanently closed to all form of traffic, be it resolved that the portion of South Cove Road identified in Schedule A as the apparent PID 7023567 is permanently closed. Be it further resolved that any conveyance at this closed portion must consider any interest in municipal infrastructures, such as easement to serve the lift station. I move that we accept the second reading of the bylaw 24-69 by its title and integrity. I just have to mention, it says Schedule A. No, it was B. And once it's B, one is A. Yeah, I changed the two. Will be modified for the next one. Sorry. He said it's not what he had. Moved by Councillor Janice Cormier, seconded by Joël Després. Second question. If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Against nay. Carried. Thank you. In terms of motion, 15-point distribution of the amounts by residential incentive policy. Mr. Deputy Mayor, if we would like to read it. Distribution of amount by residential incentive policy. Be it resolved that the town of Shediac issue a residential development incentive check to the following developers and residents. Luma Construction Limited, $24,437.50. Maison ML Homes Limited, $5,000 plus HST. Icon Developments Inc. For $156,286.50 plus HSC. I shall move, Mr. Mayor. Moved by Deputy Mayor Sylvie Colette Boudreau, seconded Councillor Germaine Gala. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Against nay. Carried. Thank you. I did not ask for explanation because we talk a lot about the resented 15.2. I will ask some background information for the Rotary Park renting agreement. So, Mr. CEO, just to give you some context, or then we'll move. Oh, I apologize. You will have to wait a little bit. Can you give us a context? I apologize, like I was a little bit behind. I was expecting some questions for incentive for once I'm ready. So for the Rotary Park contracts, like, that's why we're bringing a contract. These are revenue generated by the municipality. So every 5 year we renew the contract, like for the tourist building, like at the Rotary Park. We send like a DDP, like a request for proposal, like RFP was sent like to the Chamber of Commerce, was saying like to our social media, and so we publish it in the month of February, like for tenders that were received in March. So we did some evaluation for 4 out of 4 buildings, or 3 buildings I could propose to go forward. Out of those 3 buildings, we receive some offers, and they're attached to the motion. It goes by the square foot. We have to consider like those buildings. These are not isolated, so they are on posts. So there is no like foundation. No, it's really like to help like the clientele and the public. So there's a little store installed like. So we have also a souvenir shop, and we have a shop also with the cultural and arts from the artists of the region. And the other one, it's a food service, like lobster roll and different things like there. So they are the 3 agreements we have. So the reason we did not bring the 4th one is because there's some information missing. So to like submitted like a proposal, and we still have important information before we can make a recommendation. But the 4th one will come. It should come here soon. Councillor Joël Després. 15.2, like Rotary Park renting agreements. Whereas the town of Shediac owned buildings located at Rotary Park, and these buildings are leased to merchants for commercial purposes. Whereas tenders were recently called and received. Therefore, be it resolved that contracts be awarded to the following merchant: Blue Building Alpine Industry Limited for a total of 77,500. Purple Building VIP Seafood Inn for a total of 37,500. Red Building JC Logo Design for a total of 50,000. I shall move. Moved by Councillor Joël Després, seconded by Councillor Janice Cormier. Questions on the motion? Councillor Alain Cormier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So those 3 bidders, are they the same like that are there already? Yes. So these are like the three same. The Alpine Building, I think they've been there for 12, 14 years, so it's a good service. The Red Building, it would be its 2nd year. So it's really bringing like an aspect of the products from the area. So people just love to see these cultural products we have like for crafts. And the 3rd one, it's a little like a Blue Building VIP 6 would be their 6th or 7th year to this offering a service. Did we get a lot of tenders? No, these are the 3 ones we got. So the rates we're authorizing today, are they similar like what we had? It's similar. Like we had like an offer like from 12.72 a square foot up to $17 a square foot. If you're looking like for commercial lease, it can vary like from $18 to $28 per square feet. We're talking a different style of building. These are really seasonal buildings, so we're charging like a square feet is for the year because they only operate like 3 months out of the year. So it's a fee that's like affordable for them, like for their business, but no, it's not a burden in the winter. One last question for the insurance. So are those properties insured like with the municipality insurance, or they have their own? We're asking the contract like they have to give like a proof of insurance. Because if they're selling all the service they're offered, like even for their safety equipment, it's all included in the contract, Councillor Cormier. Perfect, thank you. Councillor Patricia Bourg-Chevalier. So the fact we want has three bidders, like tenders for the three buildings. I was wondering if you had like two bidders for the blue building. Is it only like the aspect, like the square foot rate, or do you have other criteria? So when we make the analysis, we want to ensure like the service offer is balanced. We wouldn't want to have like a 5 ice cream shop, like they would all competing against one against another. So we're looking at what was there in the past and the new one. So yes, the square footage value is important, but I think the service value is more important than the square foot value in the municipal. I don't know if I answered your question. That's how we analysis.
But all of those figures are public. If we come in 5 years, I want to open a souvenir shop and know they're paying $17 a square foot, and I say 16. That's not just it. How you said they've been there for a long time and they're well set up. It's not just a question of square footage per square foot. It's a service offering that's important in terms of the. We haven't any complaints. Yes, it's public. Yes, people can come. And last year was one bid $13 per square foot, and the other 14. But if there's no service, no reputation to follow, there might not be a recommendation either. That's what I want to be sure of. It's not just the rate that is the decision point. That's a great question. That there are other criteria for those who are already there. Thank you. Yeah, we want to make sure that the people visiting like the experience. It's a unique area. And why not enjoy a nice lobster roll while you're there? So, with that, all those in favor shall say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. 15.3, hiring of consultants. Shediac Cape Sidewalk Installation Study. It's Mr. CAO or Mr. Director of Operations? Yes, in February, staff received the order to look for bids for a study in terms of adding sidewalks from where they are now to the edge of Shediac Cape. So we spoke to a couple of consultancy firms in February looking for prices. One of them was not able to offer a price given their current workload at the time, but we did get one from WSP, and the other consulting firms that we work with regularly were really, really busy with other projects, so we didn't ask them to bid. So now we have a bid. We do think it's good value. And given the amount of work involved, it's from WSP Canada, Inc. They sent us a bid to do that study, and that's what we have before you. Great. So I would need a motion to start the debate, if you so wish. Does somebody want to move the motion? Councillor O'Brien, if you want to propose the motion, we can have the debate after. I have to find it first. Hiring of consultants, Shediac Cape Sidewalk Installation Study. Be it resolved to award the engineering study for the installation of sidewalks from the old town of Shediac to the new borders of Shediac Cape on Route 134 to WSP Canada Inc. in the amount of $23,100 plus HST net. The funds will come from Council Account 1-28253, Special Projects of the Council. Moved by Councillor Emile O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Murray Lloyd. On the question, Councillor Paul Boudreau, you have a question? Mr. O'Brien, did you have a question as well? No. Just a few questions. given that it's 100% on a provincial route, the 134 route, why isn't the province financing these projects? Why is it not the province, you mean? Mr. CEO, it's 100% on provincial route. Caraquet, they have sidewalks on provincial route. Number 11, it goes through the village. I would imagine that if somebody could convince the province to build them, it might be doable. But so long as it's not a priority of the province to build them, in some places the province has built sidewalks, but it's rather rare. So in this case, yes, ideally that would be the case, but that was not the motion adopted by the council. The resolution was to mandate the staff to arrive at an estimate to see what it would cost to do the study. So we're following the recommendation, the mandate of the council. Thank you. Doesn't the department have a form or a calculation to know how much it costs by foot or by square meter for sidewalks? Is it $100 a foot? I know it's a specific case. It's a big distance. Does that not exist, Bob? For 1,000 foot times it's X number of money, X amount of money. Yeah, we have units of measure in terms of installing new sections of sidewalk per meter. We have those figures. In this case, there are many factors. It's the right of way of the road, as you see in the photo on the cover page. For the service offering, there's bridges and guardrails and things that has to be reworked, including those engineers will assess what are the true costs associated with seeking out land where you're lacking land. If the slope is too big, how do we deal with that? If there's storms that pass, it's to understand that we need to do some design work, and that's what's in the service offering. Thank you. What worries me in here, if you looked at the proposal of the engineers for the amount that they're asking for, excluded services before putting the bid out, legal service, storm sewer sizing, hydraulic analysis, all other costs that we'll need to pay to have a total cost before you can put shovels in the ground. It doesn't include, as I can see from WSP, whatever they're called, excluded service, detailed topographic service survey. But then it says what they'll do for topographic survey. Can you clarify? Are they offering it that service, or do you have to pay other amounts eventually so that we can move this file forward? You have to understand this study, it's not a full design. It's not a set of plans that you can use to build a sidewalk. It's a study, a very high-level study. But we'll have a budget and a concept. I think that what they're presenting here, it's the next level. It's the detail in terms of the design to some degree. Yeah, there's some things, legal survey, they're not going to go survey land for us. They're not going to acquire land for us. They're going to identify that if we need to acquire land, well, maybe we'll put a little estimate of what we think would be the cost. That's my worry. If we need to pay another $50,000 or $150,000 for another study, I understand that we have to do things properly. So that's my questions. Those are my questions. That's why I was just looking for a bit of clarification. Thank you, Bob. Basically, the study will give us a good number in terms of what the work might cost in terms of the things that they will be examining. They'll determine exactly what other items that they haven't looked at that might need to be looked at. It will at least give us a better sense rather than just guessing. That's basically it. Just the study. It's a study to arrive at a figure. Costs $23,000. A study to arrive at a figure. Anyway, it's normal. Councillor Laurent Cormier. Thank you, Your Worship. With respect to this file, I do support the study. I do support the study that to be done by WSP so that we can know how much it would cost to get sidewalks in Shediac Cape. Just as I supported the study at Pointe du Chêne a month ago. But the fundamental problem that I have is where are we going to get the money? We're getting it from special projects. Special projects, as I interpret them, this is for shared services, arenas, multi-use centers, administering the town of Shediac, but not public works. 2 weeks ago, Your Worship, we passed 3 motions. We passed a motion that for Brobridge to Bellevue, a real cost of an actual cost of $5.8 million. Passed a motion from MacArthur's for $204,000 actual costs. We passed another motion, Main Chesley Dock, by Dexter, $8.1 million. That's a total of $10.1 million. All of those costs will be paid through paid by citizens of the former limits of Shediac. And it will be undertaken through the infrastructure budget, the public works budget. This cost should be part of public works, but not public works of Shediac, public works from outside of municipality. There's 4 local service district. I still promote this as I promoted last time, as I we came up with 5,000. That's a lot. 23,000. It's not a lot of money, but I'm asking the question to the councillors around the table. When are we going to say, because people of Shediac Cape want sidewalks, I'm not in disagreement that they want sidewalks, but with municipal reform, Your Worship, and there's a few councillors on the table who were there at the time, we were always being told this, that municipal reform, with municipal reform, when we want additional services, that the people from the region that wanted the additional service would be meant to be to pay for it. We made an exception for this at Pointe du Chêne, and now we're making an exception for this at Shediac Cape, and perhaps one day we'll make an exception at Scoudouc as well. But I do find this a bit complicated. As I see it, it's a double taxation for the people, for the residents of the old limits of Shediac. The old Shediac, they're already paying a few $100 for all of the projects that we've done. Now, people of Scoudouc will not be paying for these projects. People in Pointe du Chêne will not be paying for these projects. People in Shediac Cape will not be paying for these projects. But we're asking the residents of Shediac to pay for a project in Shediac Cape, which is only $23,000. The last debate we had, I asked this, that we might have a special tax for the local service districts that we could draw from. We could call it the local service district tax, or in the last budget, we created a special project. My interpretation of special projects, they're meant to be community projects, not infrastructure ones. And so far, that's how we've managed them. Now, here's another example. If the council decides to do another example, I'll be fine with that. But fundamentally, I think that we're opening up a bit of a Pandora's box here. It'd be hard to close again. If we open this box, it'd be good for the people outside of Shediac. I am one of those people who are representing the people outside of Shediac. But when we were elected here, when we were sworn in, we were told that we were here to represent all of the citizens of Shediac. And today, I'm wearing the hat as the representative of all the citizens of Shediac. And I don't think it's proper. We're not approaching this file properly, in my estimation. It's sad that I am obliged. I do support the project, but it's sad that I'd be forced to vote against it because I'm not criticizing staff in terms of this recommendation. Administration did receive a mandate, and they're fulfilling the mandate that the council gave them. And I voted for a study, just like I voted for a study in Pointe-du-Chêne, and others will come for later on. As a council, we have to take position here. How will we administrate this? The way we're going now, it's a shotgun approach. And when it comes to finances, in my opinion, it's you can't run things in a shotgun way. Thank you, Councillor Cormier.
Councillor Murray-Lloyd.
Councillor Murray-Lloyd.
8 weeks or 9 weeks. He's very well prepared. I'm going to ask him a question.
Through me.
Yes.
Yes.
The Sunday market, is that a shared service? There's 35,000.
Sunday market is a shared service.
Thank you. 35,000 we're spending.
Mm-hmm.
On this point that I brought up, and has gone to DTI,
You can come closer to the mic when you speak.
has gone to DTI. This will probably be an expensive program. And I fully understand Ronald Cormier's point. But it might not be a sidewalk when it's finished. Maybe the consultants will come back and it will be a bicycle trail, which we don't have. Tremendous amount of bicycles go along 134. Very dangerous. This is what the consultants will come back with, what is the best avenue from where it starts and where it will end, and how much it will cost. The cost might be something that might not meet our budget. Well, we have to accept that, and we will all vote on it. But right now, the people in Shediac Cape deserve an opportunity to see this council offer them something, because they have nothing. They got nothing. So my point is, and your point is well taken. I'm not arguing with you on this. My point is, vote this through. Let's get the exact cost. Let's see what we're looking at. Then we'll know to make a decision that will be in the best for the town of Shediac. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Lloyd.
If I may, just for the benefit of everybody on council, just to explain, I guess, what the next steps I suggest would look like. So let's say the study comes back and it's X amount of dollars. I'm not going to put a figure out there. We have no idea. Whatever that amount of dollars is to do this project, well, then it would have to be looked at as a local improvement project. So a local improvement project means that the people from Shediac Gate or in the water question, in the project about water at Point de Chine, people from Point de Chine would have to say, okay, do we as a community want to do this project? And if so, what tax implications is there to do it? Because to Councillor Cormier's point, in the same way that the citizens of the former town of Shediac pay the infrastructure in the former town, any new infrastructure like this in one of the new parts of town would have to be paid for by the residents of that area. So again, whatever that amount is, there would then have to be, a public meeting in the community to say, look, this is the project, this is how much it will cost. The costs associated to this study would be added to that. Right. So it'd be a way to recuperate that money as well. And then the community would say, okay, this is a local improvement project for your area. Do you want it or not? And if you want it, this is the impact it's going to have on your local tax rate. And then the community would say yes or no, we want it or we don't want it. Right. Like that. So I just wanted to lay out what the next steps would look like.
The next step without the consultant's report.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is 30-odd thousand.
23.
23.
Even better. But yeah, thank you. Conseiller Joël Desvrais.
C'est Monsieur le maire.
Une autre après.
Moi, même avant.
Thank you, Your Worship. Is this the first project where you would do an installation that belongs to Shediac, but you put it on government land? Is this one of the first times that you'd be doing this? No, there's water lines and sewer lines that follow it. But in terms of the provincial government, it would be treated the same way. If we do infrastructure work within a right-of-way for the road or the street, it would take an agreement between the town and the province to have the right-of-way. But if we put an underground or a water line, or we build a sidewalk up over top, in their mind, it's rather the same thing. You need a right-of-way. I understand. I understand the pipe and the sidewalk, but there's nobody walks on the water pipe. If somebody were to trip, let's say, on the sidewalk, who would get sued? They're walking on something that the town owns, but they don't own the land. I'm thinking of insurance questions, and I can't answer the question. I don't know the answer myself. Maybe we should explore this question before going any further. Insurance wouldn't insure it. Who would go to court? Who would be sued if something were to happen? This is my point. This is a good question. That is a good question. We see what area you work in. Yes, go ahead. Can I table the motion? You can propose that we be tabled. I propose that we table the motion to get more information on the topic I just raised. So I have a motion to table it. If it is supported, we vote to table with no further debate. Despite that, I had two more people for a question. So Councillor Joël Després, who was asking a table. Is there somebody who supports his motion? Councillor Ronald Cormier supports tabling the motion. Seconds tabling the motion. And it would be tabled until we can provide that information related to the point that is raised. I think it's important that we would bring it back once we can find that info, as early as possible. If it's 2 weeks later and we don't have the answer, the motion will come back once we have the answer for the council. So on the question of tabling the motion, do you understand? Do you all understand? So now you want to know if we're liable on a crosswalk that's not on our land. Sidewalk. Yes, that's something that's new for us. I don't think we've ever done this. It's to know where the responsibility, the liability applies. If there were to be an event,
Where does the liability lie?
where does the liability lie?
Question sur la motion pour
So, question on the motion for tabling.
Liability lie for 134 now.
Government.
Well, then it will be the same.
Oh,
It's just we're putting something that this town owns on a land that the government owns.
no, the town would be installing infrastructure on a piece of land that we do not own.
We do not own.
So,
Yeah.
okay? No. No. Juste pour m'assurer que vous comprenez la
I just
question.
want to make sure you understand the question. It's to table the motion until we can come back with the information that Councilor Desprez has raised in his remarks. So,
Tout le monde en faveur?
all those in favor of tabling the resolution,
Levez votre main, s'il vous plaît. Tout le monde-
please raise your hand. All those in favor of tabling the resolution. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
La motion est tablée.
The motion is tabled.
Tout le monde compte, il y en a juste 5.
7
qui a dit oui.
said yes.
L'administration reviendra
So
avec cela.
the staff will come back to council with that once it's available
Faut tabler, non?
for tabling.
Non.
Mr. Your Worship,
Premier.
Councilor Cormier.
C'est
It-
tablé, mais
It's tabled,
c'est
yes, it is tabled.
fini.
and this item is closed.
On parlera après.
You can speak to it after.
Prochain point.
Next item.
Je voulais m'assurer que le monde-
I just wanted to make sure that the people understood what voting yes and voting no meant. Hiring of consultants, water treatment center improvements project.
DG ou-
Mr. CAO or Mr. Director of Operations?
Un DG qui aime de déléguer.
A CAO who likes to delegate. He knows that project better than I do. I'm just opening my files related to this one. Yes. In 2023, we did an update of the master plan for the water system. In that master plan, one of the key items was to increase filtration capacity at the water treatment center. This project, this was our inspiration to go to the next step and seek out a service offering from EXP Services that does engineering on the water treatment. They prepared the master plan for the water system as well. So we have lots of wells. We can produce sufficient amounts of water, but we're limited in our treatment capacity. At the water treatment center, there are 2 filters. They have a capacity of each for 400 gallons a minute, total of 800. That's peak flow that we can provide. As you know, with the increase of development in town, the use of water is increasing. So when our wells can produce more than that, our filters limit our water. This project would add another filter of another 800 gallons a minute, bring us to 1,600 gallons a minute. This is basically the project. We also need to add a treatment unit, a UV treatment unit at the water treatment center that would be included in the same project.
Donc, le nouveau fil-
So the new filter will be twice as large
les deux
as
premiers ont-
the 2 other filters. That's great.
Donc, sur ce, Conseiller Paul Boudreau,
so,
vous voulez en faire-
Councilor Paul Boudreau, would you like to read the motion? Yes. Be it resolved to award the engineering of the water treatment center upgrades to EXP Services, Inc. at a value of $149,490 plus net HST. Funds will be drawn from the following account: projects, capital projects, water,
Proposé par le
borrowing commission.
Paul Boudreau,
Moved by Councilor Paul Boudreau, seconded by Councilor Roland Cormier.
3
The funds coming from,
C'est ça que j'avais dans la motion.
that's what I had in the,
Projet
it's not written there. They come from the account 128253.
des capitaux. Parfait.
Ouais.
Question, conseiller Paul Boudreau.
Can we can we go to borrowing for studies? I thought that studies had to be in our operational budgets. No, these are engineering costs, and they're included in the projects. When we go to the borrowing commission, it's for all of the project, including engineering costs. Thank you, Victor. Great. Seconded by Councilor Cormier. Councilor Cormier. Thank you, Bob. What is the timeline that we're talking about here? We're going to do the study, and then after study, we'll determine if there's a need for it. Oh, it's more than that. The study has already established. This is for the design of the modifications to the water treatment center. The timeline, the filter, its delivery time is considerable. It's near a year. So this project will be spread over 2024, 2025.
Avec une terminaison de 2025, possiblement.
Possiblement.
Okay, merci.
With an end date of 2025, possibly. We're not saying we're not thinking long term. So, on this note, all in favor saying aye. Against nay. It's been carried. We have no appointments to committees for this evening, and I need a motion. So Councillor Germaine Galland moves the adjournment of the meeting. Do not leave because we have a very short in-camera session. We are adjourned.